Hey, everybody. I'm David Bloom with Next TMT and Next TMT Talks. This podcast here with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel. We've got a special conversation later with Jason Soloff, a consultant with Hub Entertainment Research, who's a former HBO research king, talking about the woozy brand identities of most streamers and why it matters. But we'll talk about it a little bit here as well, because it's a pretty interesting conversation about why it matters at a time when streaming is bigger than ever. We'll also look at some research from another consultant, not another consultant, another consulting firm about the best window to both showcase a movie release in theaters and maximize its marketing muscle online. Some informed speculation on why Donald Trump's minions are going after the NFL's antitrust exemption. Melania's curiously timed and just plain curious news conference. Amazon Prime is mastering the golf business, and 14 reasons to expect NFL share prices to recover to last summer's heights. And the world may be about to end, or is that just a mythos? Anyway, so Daniel, let's get started. A little conversation. We're going to have a separate video of my conversation with Jason Soloff. Good stuff. Really interesting conversation. But talk a little bit about some of the details in the research that you found of interest.
Well, first off, it's not a barrel cactus, a cholla.
It is a barrel cactus because we're going to Vegas, baby. That's actually from a neighborhood. It's a photo I took, but it makes me look like I've got one of those sort of Orthodox church, Jesus halos around me. Which is not the only time you ever see that. But also, it's just kind of cool and geometric, and isn't nature amazing? So there we are. But we are going to Vegas, baby, for NAB. We're going to be doing a bunch of daily issues with a lot of really cool sponsors and some really cool video. It's going to be amazing, and I will not be doing much for fun in Vegas, but maybe a little bit. I can probably find a decent meal or two. Hit us up if you're in town.
Listen, there's nothing more thrilling than like being in the West Hall, and you got 15 minutes to get to the East Hall, and then you got to go back. It's thrilling.
Really.
The Las Vegas Convention Center is a delight, and I'm looking forward.
And I'm actually going to be also at the Adobe Summit for a little bit, just to see Shantanu Narayan's last stand at the Adobe Summit, which will be going on at the same time with the video. So it's going to be quite the crazy few days. But it is up. We'd love to see you.
So a topic. Oh, you brought up our partner interview with Jason Soloff at Hub Entertainment Research. Good data. We featured it a couple of weeks ago, but drilled down more on it this week. We talked to Jason and we looked at their survey of over 1,600 U.S. consumers, adults 17 to 100, I don't know, and found that consumers in the streaming era have trouble identifying which origin point, studio, media company, streaming company, etc., produce the film or TV show they're watching.
Jason had a lot of really interesting points. This is a question that is more trenchant and important and constantly being asked by everybody who's trying to use a streaming service these days. So it's kind of like a core question. Where is that darn show?
What
How do I find it?
is they asked consumers, their cohort, what network is the Game of Thrones come from? A good chunk, nearly half, were able to say HBO. And this is 7 years after it left production.
As the biggest show on TV, let's just make sure that's clear.
No doubt about it. But it was also linear television was in a much healthier state. It's starting to degrade a little bit, but still in a much healthier state in 2011 when it got its start. It was still the dominant paradigm. And the brand lens, what cable programmers used to talk about in terms of marketing their content, making sure that your programming was distinct and had kind of the HBO voice was clear. It was produced under the old paradigm. And now they measured awareness for Heated Rivalry, which is a hit, 11%, The Pit, 23%, and White Lotus, 22%, which is really comparatively low. And if you think about it, most people, I watched Heated Rivalry. It surfaced on Google TV, and I didn't even know where it was. Just last week or a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know it was an HBO show myself. But when you're accessing content from Amazon Prime Video subscriptions or Roku channel or any TVOS platform, it's really difficult to know sometimes. So I think that's having a real effect on this sort of age-old strategy of your premium exclusive content will bring folks to your platform. They'll know who you are, and sooner or later, you could just say it's an HBO show and people will come running. Well, maybe not so
You
much.
know,
Anyway, Jason,
to me, it's really interesting because it has a couple of implications. One, it makes the OS platforms more important than ever, right? Because they're showing this up. It also feels a little bit like what happens in every Spotify or Apple music playlist, which takes the hot song from an artist, throws it into a playlist that just auto plays, and you can't even figure out who the artist is or what album they came from.
excellent.
Back in the day, you'd buy the album, listen to the album, it would groove into your head if you really, really liked the album. You knew the kind of the order, but you knew that song was from that album, from that artist. And now it has been disconnected from not just the album by the artist, but often the artists themselves as part of a broader vibe created playlist of up music or down music or music to study by or whatever. And so this is
If
kind
I
of like
walked
that.
into a warehouse in Tower Records and I bought the 1981 Rodney James Dio Black Sabbath era classic Mob Rules, I know,
As an example, while you were
like,
on your way to the Golden Crust pizza job,
I'll just say I'd like to make that the theme music for our pod, but our producer Vivian won't let us. So if
I
you
would
want to
say
write,
also that your
petition,
partner will not let you. So there's that.
take to the streets, make signs, protest Vivian's decision.
I
She's
know
right.
I strongly urge you to take that song and use it as your walk-up music at your adult baseball league that I'm sure you need to be part of at some point very soon. I think that'll be awesome. So, until you do
I do
that,
need a hall.
there you go. There was some
Anyway,
other cool research. Well, I mean, we can talk some more about this, but I mean, Jason's going to get into this stuff, so I think it's important for us to move on to some other useful research came from Synalytic, which advises many of the big studios, Warner Brothers, Lionsgate, a bunch of others, on which movies to greenlight, what marketing decisions to make, production decisions as they go along.
CinemaCon in Las Vegas starts Monday, today.
Right. CinemaCon is Monday, and that is where all the studios show off to the theater owners what they think are going to be their big films. And they'll show 10 minutes here and 5 minutes there, and they'll trot out a few stars and they'll have some parties and some smoozing because distribution of movies has still got a very old school, we did this in 1936 kind of whiff to it. I mean, even as we've got digital distribution and consolidation in that industry and lots of woes, CinemaCon still matters for that industry quite a lot. So they'll be looking at Barrel Cactus just like the one behind me. So
Well, Synalytic, which caters to companies that are vested in theatrical distribution and want to remain so, had a really interesting research conclusion. I'll let you talk about that, but I thought that was really interesting. I'll just preface it. Long theatrical windows help streaming, not hurt it.
well, I think it's important to note that really long, but not too long. There's really a Goldilocks moment, they suggest. First of all, you've got, they actually had two kinds of sets of cross-index data. One was films that performed, overperformed expectations in the industry in terms of their box office stuff. And then they looked at how they did in streaming. But then the second part was how long were those films actually in theaters? And the middle window, 26 days to 45 days was the Goldilocks moment. And the reason why it matters is the movies are in theaters long enough to get an audience. They'll get most of their audience in those first 3 weeks, right? And then they're still fresh in people's minds. They've gotten a little bit of cultural impact, whatever they're going to get. But the marketing spend, which can be substantial, is still fresh in consumers' minds just in time for it to get over to the streaming service where it gets that second wind and that second opportunity to coast behind the marketing for the theatrical release. If you wait too long, say 90 days, which is the sort of thing Christopher Nolan will insist on with his next film and has in his previous films, and God bless Christopher Nolan as the arch traditionalist, but by insisting that it must stay there, he's had great success, but not everybody is Christopher Nolan, which is why he gets paid the big bucks. And so the question is, How long do you keep these things in there? What's the best practice? We're writing this Bible now, 5 years, 6 years since the pandemic lockdown was imposed and blew the theatrical business. Speeding started to take off. Now we're just figuring out how these things work together in a way that actually maximizes your opportunities. So I thought that was really fascinating stuff.
Hey, I don't know if you know this about me. I have an uncle who represented Goldilocks in the defense of her lawsuit by the Three Bears. And he argued
And I have to
that
tell
she had
you,
a
I
right
was
to the residence under eminent domain and got the suit closed.
she no, 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 I was a paralegal. That was actually malpractice by the guy I was working for. The Bears kind of got cheap on their legal representation, and, the guy I heard later went on to become, like, a district attorney, a US district attorney
Worked
in,
for the
the
Department.
Eastern District of North Carolina as a Trump appointee, but they didn't actually let him take the job because they weren't sure he'd pass the bar. It's really problematic, but anyway. Speaking
Anyway,
of the Trump administration, a few things. Melania, first lady, in the middle of a war being, carried on by her spouse, took time to have a press conference that nobody quite understood to say wasn't really a pal of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, even though I sent some very sweet email to her and had some photos of the four of us hanging out like we knew each other, et cetera, et cetera. Jimmy Kimmel had a fun time with that, as you can imagine, as he often does. But no one can figure out why you do this now. Any thoughts? It was kind of weird, right?
it's a little bit off topic. I mean, I think there's a bombardment, but it's so difficult no matter what topic you get into. You're a business to business trade. You should stay out of politics. Well, it's
Just
impossible.
dribble the ball, right?
It's impossible. I mean, you look at
Just dribble the cup. This is more what I do.
what's going on with the NFL, the most vital content source in all of the media business. I mean, it drives
2/3 of the top 200 shows last year, 2/3 were NFL games, and a chunk of football at the college level was the rest of it, another chunk of it, so.
the DOJ predictably this week followed through on Brennan Carr's threats to look into the antitrust exemption for the league, allowing all 32 of its owners to jointly negotiate their TV contracts. The question is, does it apply into it was made under broadcast, does it apply to the stream era? And never mind, this is all kind of pushed forward by Rupert Murdoch, who's got, a renegotiation for a league contract within the next, probably 24 months. He's got to do that.
And let's be clear, Ruger, he sold off 90% of his assets, said, "We're gonna ride or die with news and sports, and particularly the NFL on Fox, broadcast and Fox Sports," and that is their pony, and if that pony gets way more expensive, it has big implications for probably Lachlan because Rupert's, I think, 90. He may last a little while longer, but not forever, right? We hope.
Well,
We're
we've got
not sure.
around this barrel cactus before. We've covered maybe the onion is a better analogy. Just unravels and unravels. Trump's relationship with the NFL is there's a past there, starting with USFL. 40 years ago, he was the owner of the Washington Generals in an upstart spring football league. He led, kind of by force, the league's other owners to sue the NFL for monopolistic practices. He accused the league of threatening its TV partners. If you cover the USFL in the spring, we might not give you a deal. Some of that was verified in discovery, but they ended up winning $3. They wrenched their schedule, they had a little traction in the spring. They went up against the NFL in fall, and it fell apart. And he also signed unproven college stars, Doug Flutie and Herschel Walker among them.
Well, let's just be clear. Herschel Walker was proven. Doug Flutie had an extraordinary season that won him a
Well, they were
Heisman, but
proven at college,
Herschel
but
Walker was a proven college star, so
they hadn't proven
superstar.
themselves in the part of those myself. So
Right.
they paid them millions of dollars for a league that had kind of a NBA budget at the time. You could pay players.
And it is before the new collective bargaining agreement with the WNBA. We're talking small amounts of money back when that was real, not money. So they were not paying a whole lot of stuff.
So the whole
it
thing
definitely blew that up.
comes collapsing down. Flutie's having a bad year. It's his rookie year. And Trump has the audacity. It's no surprise. I mean, he did it to NATO. He goes to the league's other owners and say, listen, the fact that anybody's still coming to our games is because I brought in this talent. help pay this salary. And they told him to pound sand. And the league folded. And years later, his videographer did a documentary called Small Potatoes, Trump's words, Who Killed the USFL. That wasn't it. 10 or 12 years ago, Trump wanted to buy the Buffalo Bills, was rebuffed. I think the ownership share he wanted would end up going to John Bon Jovi, of all people.
He was rebuffaloed, not rebuffed. He was rebuffaloed.
Stephen A. Smith insists that he threatened the league's existence, saying, I'm going to run for president, win, and take your milkshake, Mr. Goodall. So listen, it could be
Goodell. It's
it
Goodell,
could be
not Goodall. He's not a gorilla. He's not a gorilla scientist. He's an NFL commissioner.
okay,
But
whatever.
he's worth billions. I'm just saying. That being said, the reasons for Trump's disaffections here are many, but Murdoch, it's safe to say, I think, found some fertile ground. I think that's what you're ultimately suggesting. Found some fertile ground when he came to whisper in Donald's ear about, we need a little leverage to make sure we're not getting the arm put on us too much. I'll be interested to see as you point out in the column, it's sort of like, you can do this investigation of the antitrust stuff about whether going streaming will be a problem, and it's a shot across the bow, which hasn't got anything to do with it. And by the way, Todd Blanche is Trump's choice as interim to succeed Pam Bondi, but he's safe. He got the interim. He's got 1 year to serve, and he can't be a permanent candidate under the way these things work. So he's got 1 year, which is until Trump becomes a very lame duck, particularly if this war doesn't get wrapped up or inflation goes up. It's going to be complicated, I think, in the next few months. That being said,
let me just say one more
it is something.
What was interesting is Brendan Carr and the DOJ's investigation claim that the threat of consumer access to the NFL is being threatened. That soon the games won't be on broadcast; they'll be on expensive streaming. That may be so, but it hasn't happened yet. And as of next season, 87% of NFL games are accessible in the broadcast ecosystem. You look when I grew up, you had fewer teams, and there was just
fewer games, fewer places to go see it. That's true. I was really interested. You estimated the NFL games, 11 teams playing 13 games a season, and they would two networks were alternating, showing game of the week kind of thing, and the teams were allowed to get this antitrust exemption. That is like a third of the available games now, particularly if you've got Sunday Ticket or something like that, for what's going on now. And they're talking about getting more, like an 18th game of the regular season. And that's almost only going to happen when they get their next collective bargaining agreement in place. And that'll be another bonanza for the league and for all of its partners, which include the broadcast operators, I suspect. But, it's really fascinating to see some of this unfold, and I'm not sure. It is possible this circles back and bites Rupert in the butt, though he has been a fairly brilliant strategist of media stuff and politics for 70 years, 65 years, longer than either of us has been alive. Not very much, but pretty much. So you kind of go, well, maybe he's doing it right, or maybe he's about to pass from the scene and hand us all a lock, but he's not necessarily a super genius wizard dude whispering into Trump's ear or whoever succeeds Trump.
We've already entered this on the fact that he's saying the government should intervene here.
Yeah, right.
It's bizarre. It's like, it just shows you.
Yeah. Free market capitalist Rupert Murdoch says we need some government assistance on this one. But speaking of sports and streaming, Amazon Prime, I just want to throw this out there, definitely mastering the golf. It's really interesting. So Netflix got like a couple of Christmas games. They're now going from the NFL, and now they're going to go push for a couple more games the night before Thanksgiving and a first week international game. That's what they're supposedly going for. Maybe the NFL is shopping around 4 or 5 new game windows, and probably the streaming guys. That's part of the conversations that are going on. But they're piecing out little bits. They're kind of nibbling on the edges, right? Well, Amazon's doing it with the Masters. So, yeah, it's been on its longtime broadcast partners forever, and CBS just shows this immaculate Disneyland, practically golf course with perfect flowers and green, no intent that steers your retinas and all that. But now this week, Amazon was carrying 2 more hours of Masters coverage each day leading into the weekend. And that doesn't seem like much, but it's like, okay, this is a very large camel sticking its nose into the tent, and I just thought that was really interesting. On top of that, and this is a wacky thing, we have a very nice Mercedes car, and in the middle of it is a big screen that has, like, all the CarPlay access and the Mercedes' own MB user experience, da da da. You turn on the car this week and the various icons have got like little red roses around them, and there's a beautiful shot across the bottom of the screen of said gorgeous fairways from the Masters. And I presume Mercedes-Benz is a big marketing partner with the Masters, just like they are with Formula One, right?
You
Right?
fire up the Mercedes, and there's the Next TMT logo. Oh, I gotta check that newsletter when I get to the office.
Well, I think it's really interesting to go, okay, so yeah, where is this coming from? And you can't make it go away. It doesn't get in the way of anything, but all of a sudden it's there and it's just sort of mutely saying, "Hey, you should go play some golf. You've got a really nice car. Why don't you drive to the golf course?" And
Watching Uber.
as far as I know, I mean, it's
I've been
really
checking
something.
out your drive. Wow, it's impressive for a
You drive and you're
January.
driving. Yeah. So, so the Masters. But I mean, it's interesting to see Amazon Prime nibbling on the edges again here and getting some premium programming in a window that isn't directly competitive with the incumbent, but gives them a relationship and a chance to start to learn some of this stuff. And I suspect Augusta is very happy. The Augusta National Country Club is very happy about this. And B, CBS maybe less so, perhaps. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, that's an interesting story.
Yeah, just a little it's just a little, "Oh, by the way," it's not a huge thing, but it was just interesting to see kinda unfolding. Laura Martin, the Even Company senior equity analyst, who's always happy to throw a couple of bombs into things, had some, interesting stuff here, so I circle back to 14 reasons why Netflix is indeed gonna get back to the midsummer share price highs, $134 a share. Now that it's done with all this craziness trying to buy Warner Brothers. As we have talked a little bit over the last 8, 9 months, it was possible that Netflix would win by losing, not getting the opportunity to spend $110 billion plus equity
Yeah,
payments to buy what's admittedly great content, but, it's a new era.
we've established that they might have been well off. I did like
No one's
Laura
worried about it.
that she has revenue full-time employee.
Yeah, there was a little stat there, and it's like 2.8 million per full-time employee or something like that.
Yeah,
Actually, the thing that was most interesting, she compares Netflix revenue per full-time employee with Warner Brothers, with Paramount Skydance, with Roku, another tech-forward company that doesn't do a lot of original programming, but has the Roku channel and lots of ads and all that stuff, and with Disney. Netflix gets 7 times as much revenue per employee as Disney. Feels like that's an opportunity for Josh D'Amaro, who just announced that they're going to be doing 1,000 layoffs, to do a little further rationalizing of some of Disney's operations going forward. Not that anyone needs to hear about, "Oh my god, more layoffs at a major Hollywood studio." But you look at that and you go, "Man, that is a big difference.
I picture
That's
Mr. Burns
huge."
from The Simpsons. Excellent FTE. How do you see that result? Anyway, that's something we.
Well, it helps that they just don't have they built that company from the ground up in the last 20 years as opposed to in the last 105. Or well, Disney's technically about 100. I think they were founded in the late 20s technically. They were running Walt and his brother were running around in Silver Lake in the 20s, 1920s. It certainly might be food for thought for tomorrow's strat planning people as they kind of try to figure out where to take the company less on the theme park side and more on the studio side. It's like, how do we do this in a more efficient way? And that's going to be a big question. I mean,
How do we
anyway.
bring more value in labor at each individual unit?
Well, I got to tell you, going to be really important at a time when AI is going to reduce the production costs for many upstart challengers that Disney's been able to fend off. You just bat them away like mosquitoes, right?
Speaking of AI, I read your segment about Anthropic and
Yeah,
Mythos. Dario Amodei had his "I am the danger" moment. It's like, we
yeah,
can't let you see it. It's too dangerous. Talk about Mythos.
right. Found it really interesting. It's like I was busy doing a lot of stuff this week. We were pumping out a lot of things, getting ready for NAB. NAB, we're going to be in the desert. Join us. And ran across this thing. Basically, people go, "Holy crap! The world might end," or get really, really, really miserable really quickly because Mythos is the latest large language model vision from Anthropic, which is the responsible AI company. That's its reputation. That's why it exists. It was a spinoff of OpenAI when they got frustrated with Sam Altman's, shall we
Right.
say,
But
less than
Mythos
precise fealty
looks at
to
software
being
applications
obeyed.
and plunders their weaknesses. Is that what it does? It looks for a weakness in a program.
Well, it's a code. It is highly capable of fixing code, but it can find problems in your code. And the problem is they went and found it can find problems in code that we haven't found in just about anybody's software. And they found what they call these 0-day exploits, which means it's never been seen before. They found one exploit, they didn't say what operating system it was, that had been there for 17 years and would allow you to take over, a bad actor to take over that system that's running that operating system and make it do whatever you want. That's a problem. And they believe that it can do that with just about all systems that are out there because all of them have 0-day exploits. We find out what happens pretty regularly sometimes with these things. And so they did a nice thing, which was we're going to share this information with 40 of the biggest companies in the world, NVIDIA, Apple, Cisco, there's some others that you would expect, and say, go fix your stuff as fast as you can and then I'll probably let it out. But it's interesting the different responses by people. So one is this real? Is this really that much of a threat? Or is it just, hey, you guys are looking to go for an IPO this year, and this is a nice way to boost it by saying you control the universal can opener? Or is it really real? And thank God Dario's company came up with instead of, I don't know, Grok from Elon Musk with its
Well, maybe not.
Nazi leanings or the Chinese.
Data leak a few weeks ago. I mean,
Yes, just a couple
all
of
their
weeks ago. Wasn't that long ago. There was a data leak, and it might have been this. Don't nothing to worry about. It's
all
gonna be
their
fine.
code got spilled to the wind.
Yeah, all those things, and we're worried about nuclear weapons. Jeez, it
Well,
is gonna be interesting.
Sam Altman, his former coworker, had his house firebombed in San Francisco last week. Things are
Right.
getting real in the AI soap opera.
Yeah, that's definitely not a virtual firebombing. So, I mean, I invoke the serenity prayer. There are some things we cannot change, and we have to find the serenity to accept them. We can't do much about this other than maybe making sure you got two-factor authentication on your really important accounts and updating your really easy to hack passwords. It's not all you can do. In the meantime, I suggest kissing your partner and loving your children. And what about you?
Yeah. Well, producer Vivian has programs that like find weaknesses in my code. She runs them daily. So I
I
gotta
think that's probably I think they call that fishing in a barrel, just saying,
that's what
or a
she's.
barrel of cactus, as it were, because we're going to NAB.
So I wanted a couple things. We're back on the subject of our dear leader and Chris Ruddy,
You mean Vivian, right? The producer.
Newsmax, and Chris Ruddy, a longtime Trump supporter. Chris Ruddy owns Newsmax. He is a former Rupert Murdoch minion from the New York Post who made it big. And he's this cable news channel. He's a card-carrying Mar-a-Lago club member. True story. And he's a longtime personal friend of the president. And it's not doing him much good right now because he came out in sort of virulent opposition
Vehemently. Vehement.
to the FCC's willingness to overlook the station cap rule and let Nexstar buy Tegna for $6.2 billion. Trump wants that to go through because he feels like it'll smite NBC and ABC and the fake news media, it is apparent that there's something going on. There was a Newsmax reporter who asked Trump a question about the Iran, not a war, on the tarmac this week. And we have video of this C-SPAN video in the newsletter. And the president's like, "Who are you with?" "Oh, Newsmax, sir." You're doing very bad, very poor. You're not doing very strongly." The wind has shifted on Chris Ruddy, which, listen, if it can, it's another latest example of friendship only goes so far with leadership.
Yeah, yeah, I'd probably it's a transactional process, and if you forget that, you're often gonna get reminded. With that being said, we'll see how it works out with Newsmax. I think that procedurally, this shoving through this thing while not actually changing the rules, but just allowing them to do it, will have a hard time in the courts, and as many of the make it so kinds of provisions from the Trump administration have
Sacramento
proven to be.
federal judge has already put a restraining order on it, and it's gonna
Right,
get reviewed this week.
right.
There's news coming out, and he has a hard job because there's a lot of pressure just in terms, Newsmax has said, I'm sorry, Nexstar has come and said, "Listen, we've already got the approval from the federal government. We've moved things forward. We can't stop it now." And the j the
Yeah,
judge
I think that sounds not true, but, it's what you tell the judge until the judge puts you in contempt of court. Because things can get undone. They could be, it's silly to make that contention and hope that
more
somebody who
likely
made
than
it
not,
through
you're
law
right.
school, yeah,
But
so.
that's a very good distinction. They've got to, justify what still is the law with this very aberrant decision based on rule of law.
Yeah, it's not based on a rule of law, it's based on a rule of Don, so, you know?
Anyway,
So that'll be a fun one to play out. Anyway, we have to go pack because 'cause we're gonna be at NAB. We've got
I think
loads of
we've
wonderful
established
sponsors. We've got lots of meetings. We're gonna have daily video and texts, newsletters. It's gonna be just an NAB Nanza.
yeah,
NAB
NAB,
Nanza. I kinda like that.
that's good. I mean, we could
Yeah.
be halfway
So,
across the world, but we go where we wanted, right, Dave?
not usually. It's a goal. It's a goal to be wanted somewhere.
Do that. Sing us out of
So
here,
we're
buddy.
gonna do that. Hi, this is David Bloom, co-founder of Next TMT, and this here podcast, Next TMT Talks, with my co-founder Daniel Frankel. Please like, share, subscribe, send us comments about how you're thinking and how we can do better. I'm sure you have some opinions, and we will take it. We're big boys. Bring it on. But clearly, if you got tips, we like those too, and ideas, and we love our sponsors, and we love being able to do this stuff for you. So we'd like to continue doing it. Thank you so much for everything you do in reading us and sharing us and talking about us. And with all that, I will wrap this up. This is David Bloom, over and out.